What if I told you that every moment of your life, every success, every failure, every twist of fate, begins with a single thought? You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the master of creation. Govern your thoughts, and you govern your destiny. The power that shapes worlds is moving through your mind right now. The question is, are you controlling it, or is it controlling you? My friends, the greatest secret in the world is this: you are already living in the reality you inwardly accept as true. The conversations you hold within yourself, the silent words no one hears, are shaping the events, people, and circumstances of your life. You need not beg or chase for your desires. You need only experience them inwardly as though they were already yours. Every desire is a seed, and the moment you feel it to be real, it begins to move into form. The world is only a mirror reflecting your inner dialogue. Ask yourself now, what are you saying to yourself all day long? Are your words lifting you higher or chaining you to the same old state? You cannot speak of lack and live in abundance. You cannot talk of failure and walk in success. Change your inner speech, and the outer world will have no choice but to follow. Speak within yourself as though you already possess what you desire. Feel the thrill of the wish fulfilled. Hear your friends congratulating you. See the world responding to your success. Let this inner dialogue become more real to you than the evidence of your senses. For imagination is the only reality, and the man or woman who governs their inner conversation rules their world. So tonight, before you sleep, rewrite your inner story. Speak lovingly, confidently, and gratefully from the end, and watch the unseen arrange itself to bring your assumption to life. Your inner dialogue creates your outer world. The words you whisper to yourself in silence, the tone in which you speak inwardly, and the stories you repeat in your imagination form the blueprint of your life. The outer world is not separate from you. It is a reflection, a mirror responding faithfully to the thoughts and feelings you entertain most persistently. Whatever you accept inwardly as true, the world must mirror outwardly. You are not the victim of circumstance. You are the author of experience. Most people speak within themselves as though they were powerless, as though life were happening to them rather than through them. They rehearse conversations of doubt, fear, and failure. They imagine rejection, disappointment, or delay, and then wonder why those very things manifest in their world. But the moment you awaken to the truth that every inward conversation is a creative act, you begin to speak differently within yourself. You begin to use your imagination consciously. Your inner speech is not idle. Every word impresses the subconscious mind and moves invisible forces into motion. When you imagine yourself having, being, or doing what you desire, and persist in that assumption, you command reality to take shape accordingly. Life does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you assume and feel to be true. The secret is not to fight appearances, but to ignore them and inwardly live from the end, to occupy the state of your fulfilled desire in consciousness until it feels natural. If you constantly tell yourself that you are not enough, that success is hard, that love escapes you, you bind yourself to that pattern. But if you change your inner conversation to one of worthiness, abundance, and fulfillment, the pattern must dissolve. The law is impersonal. It gives to every man according to his inner speech. You are always having conversations in the unseen, with yourself, with others, with life itself. And these unseen dialogues set the tone of your existence. When you close your eyes and imagine someone congratulating you, when you feel the satisfaction of accomplishment, when you hear the words you would hear if your desire were already realized, you are reprogramming your inner world. The subconscious accepts that image as fact and begins to reproduce it in the outer realm. This is why faith is not blind belief, but loyalty to the unseen reality. To persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled despite appearances is the key to transformation. Every time you find yourself drifting into negative inner speech, stop and revise it. Speak inwardly as you wish things to be, not as they appear to be. Do not wait for evidence before believing. Belief itself is the evidence. As you persist in your new inner dialogue, the outer world must yield, for it has no life of its own. It only echoes the song you sing within. You are always assuming something. Choose your assumptions wisely. Every moment of your life, you are clothing yourself in invisible states of mind, and these states determine the experiences that unfold before you. You may not be aware of it, but behind every emotion, every reaction, every thought you entertain lies an assumption, an inner belief about who you are, what the world is, and what is possible for you. These assumptions are the silent architects of your destiny, forming the unseen foundation of your outer circumstances. When you assume that life is against you, that people cannot be trusted, that success is only for the few, you unconsciously step into a reality that reflects those very beliefs. The assumption becomes the seed, and the world becomes the field that grows it. You experience exactly what you inwardly expect. Nothing in your life happens by accident. Everything arises from the quality of your inner state. To assume is to accept something as true, not intellectually, but emotionally, with feeling and conviction. And once you feel it as truth, the subconscious takes it as a command and expresses it in your outer world. You can test this for yourself. Assume that you are loved, guided, and favored, and you will begin to notice subtle shifts in how life responds to you. People will appear more kind, opportunities will arise unexpectedly, and the atmosphere around you will change. But assume that you are forgotten, unlucky, or undeserving, and the evidence will support that story just as faithfully. The law of assumption does not discriminate between good or bad, wanted or unwanted. It simply reflects what you accept as real. Most people live by default, assuming unconsciously from the memory of the past. They rehearse old disappointments, replay old failures, and then wonder why the same patterns repeat. But the moment you become aware that you are assuming, you gain the power to choose differently. You can step out of an unwanted state and enter a new one simply by assuming it to be so. The inner shift always precedes the outer change. If you desire success, assume that you already are successful. If you long for love, assume that you are already loved. The assumption may feel unnatural at first because the outer world has not yet reflected it, but persist in the feeling until it becomes normal, until your mind accepts it as self-evident. Every assumption, when persisted in, hardens into fact. What you feel to be true of yourself eventually becomes your experience, not because you forced it, but because consciousness creates reality. So observe your assumptions each day. Notice the quiet statements you make within. I can't. It's too late. It always happens to me. These are not mere thoughts, they are decrees. Change them. Replace them with assumptions that lift, empower, and expand you. For life can only show you what you are assuming to be true of yourself and your world. Desire is not distant, it is an invitation to a higher state of being. The very moment a desire is born within you, it is not something apart from you. It is life itself calling you to expand, to rise into a new level of awareness. Desire does not come to torment you or to remind you of what you lack. It comes to reveal what is already possible within you. Every longing, every dream, every vision that stirs your heart is evidence of an unseen reality seeking expression through you. You could not desire something unless the potential for its fulfillment already existed within your own consciousness. When you desire wealth, love, health, or freedom, you are not asking for something external to be added to you. You are being invited to embody the version of yourself that already lives in that reality. The desire is the bridge between who you think you are and who you truly are. But most people misinterpret desire. They see it as a reminder of what they don't yet have, and in doing so, they dwell in lack. Yet desire, properly understood, is a divine signal, a whisper from your higher self, saying, "Come up higher. Step into the new state prepared for you." You are not meant to suppress your desires nor chase them endlessly in the outer world. You are meant to enter into them in imagination. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you unite yourself with that higher state. You begin to think, feel, and act from it, not toward it. The outer world, being only a shadow of your inner state, must eventually conform. Every desire carries its own fulfillment within it, just as the seed carries the pattern of the tree. The moment you accept the desire as already realized in your imagination, you activate the law of being that makes it manifest. To desire something is to sense the possibility of its existence. That feeling of possibility is life's way of showing you your next level of expression. You may believe that the fulfillment of your desire lies far away in time or effort, but distance and delay exist only in thought. Consciousness is immediate. The moment you shift your awareness, the new state is yours. The world will rearrange itself to reflect it in due course. But inwardly you have already ascended. Never condemn desire. It is not greed, nor impatience, nor weakness. It is divine movement, the creative urge of life pressing forward through you. When you feel desire, welcome it. Embrace it with gratitude, for it is the evidence of your limitless potential. Rather than resisting or fearing it, close your eyes and enter its fulfillment now. See yourself as the one who already possesses what you long for. Feel the relief, the joy, the gratitude of completion. You are not waiting for it to come. You are awakening to the state where it already exists, and that is the true meaning of creation. Speak from the end, not of the end. To speak from the end means to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, to think, feel, and talk as the person who already possesses what they once desired. Most people speak of the end. They talk about their goals as if they are far away, describing what they want, what they hope for, what they lack. But to speak from the end is entirely different. It is to inwardly occupy the state where your desire is already realized and to let your words, emotions, and assumptions flow from that reality. When you speak from the end, you no longer beg for what you want, you give thanks for what already is. You do not say, I will be successful. You declare inwardly, I am successful. You do not imagine a future where love might come to you. You feel love now. In imagination, you stand at the finish line, not the starting point. You view the world from the mountaintop of fulfillment, not from the valley of desire. It is this shift in inner position that transforms everything. For creation is finished, all states already exist. You are not creating something new. You are simply choosing which state of consciousness to express. The mistake most people make is speaking of the end with hope or doubt, reinforcing the belief that they are separate from their desire. Every time you talk about what you want as something you do not yet have, you strengthen the state of not having it. But when you speak from the end, when you inwardly claim its reality, you dissolve the sense of separation. You become one with your wish, and this unity causes the unseen to manifest. The subconscious mind does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. It accepts as true whatever feeling you impress upon it. Speaking from the end impresses it with fulfillment, and fulfillment must then externalize. To speak from the end is not mere affirmation or repetition of words, it is an inward knowing. It is to feel the truth of your desire so deeply that you no longer look for signs, no longer wonder how it will happen. You rest in the assurance that it already has. From this inner conviction, you naturally act, react, and think in harmony with the fulfilled state. The world then becomes a mirror, reflecting the certainty of your inner stance. When you close your eyes and imagine your desire as complete, hear the voices of those who would congratulate you, sense the atmosphere of accomplishment, and feel the peace of is done. Speak inwardly as the one who has arrived, not the one who is still waiting. Refuse to let your words contradict your assumption. The unseen powers respond to your inner tone, not your outer effort. To live this way is to align with divine law, the law that says whatever you assume and persist in feeling must become your world. Feel the wish fulfilled, and reality will mirror it. The secret of creation lies not in struggle or effort, but in feeling. You do not manifest what you want, you manifest what you feel to be true. Feeling is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, the spiritual and the physical. When you feel the wish fulfilled, you align your inner world with the state of already having what you desire. This feeling, once accepted, impresses the subconscious mind, and the subconscious faithfully brings it into expression. The world around you is nothing more than your feelings objectified. Most people live from the feeling of not having their desire. They say they want wealth, yet inwardly they feel poor. They long for love, but feel lonely. They dream of freedom while feeling trapped. Their feelings contradict their desires, and so life continues to mirror their sense of lack. But the moment you shift from wanting to having in consciousness, everything begins to change. The feeling of fulfillment is not dependent on outer evidence. It is a conscious decision to inhabit the state you wish to experience, regardless of what the senses say. To feel the wish fulfilled is to move beyond hope and enter certainty. Hope looks forward to the future. Faith lives in the now. When you feel something as already real, you withdraw your attention from the idea of waiting or needing, and you rest in the vibration of completion. This inner rest is not laziness. It is creative assurance. You are no longer questioning how or when, you are dwelling in the knowing that it is already done. The world then reorganizes itself to reflect that feeling, for the outer is but a shadow of the inner state. Everything in life is drawn to you according to the feeling you radiate. If you persist in the feeling of lack, you magnetize more experiences of lack. But if you persist in the feeling of fulfillment, you magnetize everything that aligns with that state. Feeling is not an after effect of manifestation, it is the cause. The great secret is to feel now what you wish to experience later. The moment you feel it real, even in imagination, you have entered the state of realization, and from that moment, its manifestation is inevitable. This is why Neville Goddard said that assumption, when persisted in, becomes fact. The assumption is not mere thought, it is the felt reality of the wish fulfilled. Your feelings are creative commands, and life answers them without question. So the task is simple yet profound. Feel it as real now. Let the joy, peace, and satisfaction of fulfillment rise within you until it feels natural. Do not strain or force the feeling. Simply relax into the conviction that it is already so. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the key to creation, for the outer world must reflect the inner mood you consistently maintain. Imagination is the creative power within you. It is the invisible force that shapes your world, the divine faculty through which all things are made. Every invention, every work of art, every achievement that has ever come into existence began first as an image in someone's mind. The house you live in, the device you hold, the city that surrounds you, all were once invisible ideas imagined into being. What is true for the world at large is equally true for your personal life. Everything you experience is the result of what you have imagined, knowingly or unknowingly. You are imagining your world into existence at every moment. Imagination is not mere fantasy or idle daydreaming. It is the creative act of consciousness itself. When you imagine, you are not escaping reality, you are shaping it. The world you see with your physical eyes is only the crystallized result of your inner pictures, feelings, and assumptions. Every time you think of yourself in a certain way, every time you feel something deeply, you are using imagination to define the limits of your experience. If you see yourself as limited, life will reflect that limitation. If you imagine yourself free, successful, and fulfilled, reality must mirror that freedom. Most people allow their imagination to run unconsciously in the direction of fear, worry, and doubt. They imagine the worst, and the world obliges by bringing it to life. But when you become aware of your creative power, you can redirect your imagination toward the good, the true, and the beautiful. You can consciously create from love instead of fear, from confidence instead of uncertainty. The power is not somewhere outside you. It is within, waiting for direction. You are the dreamer and the dream, the sculptor and the clay. To imagine creatively is to live deliberately. Close your eyes and see yourself as the person you wish to be. Feel the reality of it. Walk in that inner scene as though it were happening now. The subconscious mind does not distinguish between what is imagined and what is real. It simply accepts the feeling and expresses it outwardly. Imagination creates reality because it is one with God, the creative source of all life. Whatever you hold persistently in imagination will harden into fact. You need not know how it will come to pass. The how belongs to the unseen intelligence that responds to your inner state. Your task is only to imagine and feel the end with conviction. Let your imagination be your workshop, your sacred space where all desires are fulfilled before they appear in time. When you learn to imagine lovingly and consistently, you rise above circumstance and become the conscious creator of your destiny. All things are possible to the one who imagines and believes. For imagination is not something you use. It is who you truly are. the very essence of creative life moving through you. Your self-talk determines your self-concept. The words you speak within yourself each day form the image you hold of who you are, and that image becomes the foundation of your entire life. Every belief, every reaction, every choice arises from the way you see yourself. Your inner speech is not harmless chatter. It is the silent architect of your identity. You are constantly defining yourself by the thoughts you accept as true. If you tell yourself you are confident, capable, and worthy, you build a self-concept that reflects those qualities. If you habitually tell yourself you are unworthy, unlucky, or powerless, your world will mirror that conviction. Your self-talk operates like a script, and your life follows it faithfully. The subconscious mind accepts whatever it hears repeatedly, whether positive or negative, and reproduces it as your experience. You cannot speak defeat and lie victory. You cannot declare lack and enjoy abundance. The words you impress upon yourself shape the emotional atmosphere in which you live. They influence how others perceive you, how you respond to challenges, and what opportunities you attract. The outer world is only a shadow of the story you tell yourself within. Most people allow their self-talk to run on autopilot, unaware that they are continually affirming the very limitations they wish to escape. They say, "I can't. It never works for me. I'm not enough." And these phrases become self-imposed laws. But when you awaken to your creative power, you begin to guard your inner conversation. You become selective with your words, speaking only those that uplift and empower. You understand that changing your life requires changing the way you speak to yourself about who you are. Every transformation begins in the mind. The moment you begin to speak kindly, lovingly, and confidently within yourself, your self-concept shifts. You start to identify with your higher self, the version of you that already possesses the qualities you desire. When you speak as that person, when your inner dialogue reflects faith instead of fear, you align with a new state of being. The change may feel subtle at first, but over time, it becomes your new natural way of seeing yourself, and life responds accordingly. Self-talk is a continuous act of creation. You are never neutral in your inner speech. You are always affirming something. Each word carries vibration and power. To speak to yourself as the person you wish to be is to train the subconscious to accept that identity as real. And once it does, your actions, feelings, and circumstances naturally align with it. The world cannot help but reflect your inner conviction. When you learn to master your self-talk, you master your self-concept. And when you master your self-concept, you master your world. Every great change begins not with outer effort, but with a quiet, consistent decision to speak differently within yourself, to affirm, assume, and feel the truth of the self you choose to be. The world responds to your dominant inner feeling. Every circumstance, every encounter, and every event in your life is a reflection of the emotional state you most consistently dwell in. The outer world is not separate from you. It is a mirror faithfully echoing what you feel to be true about yourself and about life. You may speak positive words or repeat affirmations, but if your underlying feeling contradicts them, it is the feeling that shapes your experience. The creative power of consciousness does not respond to mere words. It responds to vibration, to emotion, to the inner atmosphere that you carry within. Feeling is the secret key to manifestation. You may think your thoughts are what create, but it is the feeling attached to those thoughts that gives them life. A thought without emotion fades quickly, but a thought wrapped in strong feeling impresses the subconscious mind and sets events into motion. This is why Neville Goddard taught that you must feel the wish fulfilled, not simply imagine it intellectually. The feeling of fulfillment is the magnetic force that draws its outer equivalent. What you feel deeply and persistently will always externalize itself as fact, for the outer world must correspond to the inner tone you sustain. If you live from a feeling of fear, even while hoping for safety, your world will reflect fear back to you. If you dwell in resentment, you will meet more reasons to be resentful. But if you cultivate peace, joy, and gratitude, the universe will mirror that harmony. The law is impersonal. It delivers to each person what their dominant feeling demands. This is not punishment or reward. It is simply the way consciousness operates. You are always broadcasting energy, and the world rearranges itself to match the frequency you radiate. To change your life, you must change your feeling. This does not mean forcing emotion or pretending to be happy when you are not. It means gently shifting your inner focus toward the feeling of the state you wish to experience. Ask yourself, if my desire were already fulfilled, how would I feel? Then begin to live from that feeling as best you can, moment by moment. Feel the relief, the calm, the satisfaction of completion. Allow yourself to rest in that emotional reality until it becomes natural. As your dominant feeling changes, the world must conform, for it cannot resist the vibration of a settled conviction. You are the source, not the effect. The world is not happening to you, it is happening through you. Everything you encounter is showing you the feeling you most often return to. When you understand this, you stop blaming conditions and start mastering your inner state. The key is not to fight circumstances, but to rise above them in feeling. The world has no choice but to follow the tone of your inner music, for it is forever responding to the song of your dominant emotion. Persist in your new story until it hardens into fact. Every change in life begins within imagination, and imagination becomes reality through persistence. The moment you assume a new concept of yourself, a new story, the world begins to rearrange itself in subtle ways to reflect that assumption. But the outer change does not always happen instantly. Between the assumption and its visible expression lies the test of faith, the period where you must remain loyal to your inner conviction even when the evidence contradicts it. This is the time when most people waver, returning to old thoughts, old fears, and old reactions. Yet it is precisely in this interval that persistence is required. Persistence is the art of remaining faithful to the unseen reality. It is refusing to abandon your inner vision simply because the outer world has not yet caught up. The old story may still appear before you, but it has no power unless you feed it with attention. The new story will only solidify when you give it your consistent belief. You cannot live two stories at once. You must decide which one you belong to. The moment you begin to think, feel, and act from your desired state, you step into a new timeline, and persistence is what keeps you there until it becomes your new normal. The subconscious mind is impressed through repetition and feeling. Each time you return to your new story, you deepen its roots within you. Each time you imagine from the end and feel its truth, you weaken the grip of the old identity. Eventually, what once felt unnatural begins to feel familiar, and what once felt distant becomes self-evident. Reality bends to the consistency of your inner conviction. What you persist in imagining eventually takes form, for imagination creates reality. The law is perfect and unchanging. Whatever you occupy in consciousness over time must externalize. To persist does not mean to strain or to fight. It means to remain inwardly loyal to your chosen state. Even when doubts arise, you return gently to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You remind yourself that appearances are temporary shadows of your past thinking, and that the new story is already real within. When you persist with quiet confidence, the old conditions fade naturally, replaced by the reflection of your new assumption. The world cannot resist a mind that refuses to move from its chosen reality. The key is emotional consistency. You do not need constant effort, only steady faith. When you occupy a new concept of yourself long enough, it becomes automatic. You stop imagining it as something to achieve and begin to experience it as who you are. The bridge of incidents will unfold in perfect order, leading you to the visible manifestation of your assumption. The story you persist in inwardly is the destiny you will one day live outwardly. For persistence turns imagination into fact. Govern your thoughts, and you govern your destiny. Every outcome in your life is born first as a thought. The mind is the origin of all creation, and what you consistently think determines the path your life follows. Most people believe circumstances shape their thinking, but the truth is the reverse. Your thinking shapes your circumstances. You cannot experience what you do not first entertain in consciousness. Thoughts are the invisible causes of visible effects. Each idea, each mental image, each inner statement is a seed planted in the fertile soil of the subconscious, and in time, it grows into the events, relationships, and conditions of your world. The mind is not a passive observer of life, It is the creative center of life itself. To govern your thoughts is to take command of this creative power. Every time you dwell on fear, worry, or doubt, you are unconsciously directing that power toward undesired ends. But when you discipline your mind to dwell on faith, confidence, and success, you align yourself with a higher order of reality. The outer world cannot help but reflect the quality of your inner focus. The mind is magnetic. It attracts to itself the experiences that correspond to its dominant tone. Most people live as servants to their thoughts rather than masters of them. They let the mind wander from one worry to another, unaware that this mental drift is shaping their future. But when you become conscious of your thinking, when you deliberately choose thoughts that match the reality you wish to create, you begin to steer your life in the direction of your choosing. The mind is like a ship, and thoughts are the rudder. Where you consistently direct them determines where you will arrive. Governance of thought does not mean suppressing or fighting unwanted ideas. It means observing them without reaction and redirecting attention to what uplifts, strengthens, and inspires. The law of consciousness responds not to fleeting thoughts, but to those that are repeated and felt with conviction. So you must cultivate mental discipline, not through force, but through awareness and practice. When an old, limiting thought arises, replace it with a new, empowering one. When you catch yourself imagining defeat, revise the scene and see yourself victorious. Over time, the mind begins to obey your higher intention, and your world follows suit. As you learn to govern your thoughts, you reclaim authorship over your life. You cease to be at the mercy of appearances, and become the master of cause rather than the victim of effect. Every great achievement, every transformation, begins with a single decision to think differently. You are not bound by the past, you are bound only by the thoughts you choose to continue thinking. When your thoughts align with the vision of your highest self, life reorganizes itself to mirror that alignment. To govern thought is to shape destiny. For your outer world is nothing more than your inner consciousness expressed in form.